In 2005, a deadly plague swept across the world of Azeroth. Entire cities were wiped out, players fled in panic. Healers couldn't keep up, the dead piled in the streets. And this wasn't a scripted event. It was caused by a single player, completely by accident, and provided scientists with necessary information and data to save actual lives in the future. This is the story of how one hunter, a bug, and a viral disease changed real-life science forever. In 2005, World of Warcraft was booming. Blizzard's new MMO had already attracted millions of players, and the game world, Azeroth, was alive with activity. From bustling cities like Ironforge and Orgrimmar to deadly dungeons and PvP battlegrounds. WoW was more than a game. It was a living, breathing online society. Then, on September 13th, Blizzard released a new raid, Zul'Gurub. Hidden deep in the jungle of Stranglethorn, the raid featured a godlike bloodlower named Hakar, the Soul Flayer. And as it turns out, a very mechanically heavy ability. Hakar had an ability called Corrupted Blood, a debuff that infected nearby players, dealing damage over time and jumping from player to player on contact. In the raid, it was manageable. Healers kept it under control and it wore off after a few seconds. Developers had intended to limit the effects of the debuff to the Zul'Gurub region, but a programming oversight led to its spread throughout the in-game universe. Blizzard didn't account for one single thing: pets. A single hunter, whose name is unknown to this day, noticed that his pet had been infected with corrupted blood during the raid. When he dismissed the pet mid-fight, the debuff didn't disappear. Later, back in the major city, the hunter summoned his pet again, and with that mistake, the pandemic broke loose. Corrupted blood was still on his pet. In seconds, it spread to nearby players, and from them to everyone else. The infection moved fast. Corrupted blood jumped from player to player in any range, including low-level characters who obviously died instantly. Priests and druids tried to heal, but the spread was simply too fast. NPCs caught it too, but they couldn't really die. This may sound good at first, but what if I told you that the NPCs dying would have maybe prevented this whole pandemic altogether? Instead of dying, these NPCs became asymptomatic carriers for player characters. An asymptomatic carrier is a person that has become infected but shows no signs or symptoms. They play a critical role in the transmission of common diseases in real life, and it was no different right here. They constantly had this debuff and spread it to any player getting close to them, who then spread it to even more NPCs. Major cities like Stormwind and Orgrimmar became completely unplayable. Players fled to the wilderness. Some even logged off, hoping it would end. Others stayed behind just to watch the world burn. Some players intentionally spread it, walking into crowded areas like auction houses just to infect the others. What was the player's perception and reaction at the time though?
Don't run away, guys.
I can't get infected either. It's not happening.
We should take it to AB and spread it to the Alliance. That'd be pretty funny.
Many players that haven't even seen anything from the endgame yet and didn't know what a raid was, thought this was a special event, teasing something big, like maybe Arthur strolling into Stormwind soon. Some were visibly angry, since this basically stopped them from turning in a quest without being blown up by a random friendly NPC, resulting in some of them to quit permanently. Some people even started selling supposed cures for the corrupted blood, which of course did nothing except making them a lot of gold. One player told the Washington Post that the world chat would explode anytime a city fell. We kept a close eye not only on our guild, but on world chat as well, to see where not to go. We didn't want to catch it. One griefer, whose guild engaged in the practice of spreading the disease intentionally, told Wired that he did so because he was amused by the reactions of other players, saying it's just funny to watch people run away screaming. Blizzard obviously caught wind about this massive problem, and on the afternoon of September 16th, a Blizzard staff member reported that the team was aware of the issue and were working on it. One of the first steps Blizzard took to attempt containment of the virus was to institute quarantine zones, placing barriers around heavily infected areas. This effect quickly reached its limits though, as some players managed to bypass these containment measures. The pets of the players were still the main reason the debuff was spreading so fast, and their only way was to manually check every pet's state, which obviously took a lot of time. Blizzard attempted to put a stop to the pandemic with hotfixes, including restarting each and every server on a rolling basis. But the corrupted blood outbreak soon re-emerged, repeating everything once again. After a whole week of constant rollbacks and outbreaks, Blizzard made the difficult decision to perform a hard reset on the WoW servers, resetting Azeroth to its state just before the introduction of corrupted blood. On that day, a whole week of player progress was lost, but they couldn't think of any other suitable way to fix this massive pandemic. Additionally, on October 8th, Blizzard released a patch that made pets immune to the Corrupted Blood debuff. But how did it influence the real world and changed science forever? The chaos of the Corrupted Blood plague didn't just shake Azeroth. It caught the attention of real-world scientists. The CDC, the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, actually contacted Blizzard thinking the outbreak was a planned simulation they could study. But Blizzard had to admit that it was simply just a bug. Still, epidemiologists were fascinated. Researchers compared the way pets spread corrupted blood to how bird flu moved through asymptomatic animals, and likened WoW's fast travel system to air travel during COVID. The sudden impact of the coronavirus in 2020 led several researchers to turn to the Corrupted Blood incident as a potential model for understanding the virus's sociological impact. Of particular interest of researchers in the use of MMORPGs for epidemiology is that character responses to virtual pandemics are the result of individual player reactions, adding a level of authenticity that doesn't exist in other simulations. In other, simpler words, the most important insight in those tests was the human behavior in such situations. Unlike most disease models, WoW players made real choices. Some helped, some fled, others grieved. That unpredictability made the outbreak feel eerily authentic. Now, keep in mind, this was during a time where people said that video games turned humans violent and into monsters. So take this following part with a grain of salt. Outside of disease research, some have speculated that the griefing attack that took place during the Corrupted Blood pandemic may provide a model for bioterrorism research. Charles Blair of the Center for Terrorism and Intelligence Studies told Wired that the behavior of griefers could augment the computer model tactical decision-making enacted by terrorist research. Was it a perfect model of real life? No, but the Corrupted Blood incident proved one simple thing. Even in a game, human nature is hard to predict. And to remind you all, this all started with one hunter, his pet, and a bug. It became one of the most infamous bugs in gaming history, turning a fantasy world into a chaotic simulation of real-world contagion. This wasn't just a WoW moment, it was a digital pandemic changing the entire future of the world. This incident even got its own in-depth wiki, and many websites that aren't related to gaming whatsoever decided to talk about it. This thing was huge. Blizzard eventually decided to bring this awesome event back, but in a lighter and less annoying and deadly way. The Zombie Infestation event was a world event in the pre-patch of Wrath of the Lich King, where conspicuous crates spawned across all the main hubs, which infected the player once touched. Players then had a 10-minute timer to get cured before they transform into a plague zombie, giving you the ability to infect others with this disease as well. You may also think that Blizzard learned from their mistakes. But what if I told you that this exact pandemic got recreated not even that long ago? When Phase 3 of Season of Discovery rolled out, they also reworked the Sunken Temple dungeon. The Avatar of Hakar encounter now had the exact same Corrupted Blood debuff that caused all of this back in 2005. Player base also managed to somehow get the debuff from the raid into the open world again, and all hell broke loose once again. But with the technology and knowledge Blizzard has today, they quickly fixed this before we repeated history once again. How would you have reacted with the knowledge of diseases and WoW you have now? Assuming you can't just mount up and fly to the highest mountain in the game. Let me know down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, you will also like this one. Like and subscribe if you don't want to miss any future videos like these, and consider joining our Discord community to be notified whenever I stream or upload another video. I hope you all have a great rest of the day, and I'll catch you on the next one.